The calendar turns, as it always does. The calendar turns, as it always does. We find ourselves standing at a significant milestone, the year 2026. This marks 250 years since the momentous events of 1776, a year that has become shorthand for the very birth of the United States. As we approach this sesquicentennial anniversary, the air fills with discussions, the air fills with celebrations, the air fills with profound questions about our national origins. People from all walks of life find themselves drawn back to that pivotal moment in time, attempting to understand what truly transpired and why it continues to hold such a powerful grip on our collective imagination, shaping our present and our future. The story of 1776 is often told in broad, heroic strokes, painted with the vibrant colors of patriotism and revolutionary zeal. Myth 5. 1776 started full democracy. This common refrain suggests that with the stroke of a pen, the United States was born as a complete and inclusive democratic republic, a shining city on a hill where the will of the people reigned supreme from the very first day. We often imagine a sudden, clean break from the old world of monarchy and the immediate establishment of a government of the people, by the people, and for all the people. This vision is powerful, and it speaks to a deep yearning for a perfect beginning, a moment of pure and unadulterated popular sovereignty that set the nation on its path. Fact: the first government was limited. Only some men could vote. This is a crucial distinction that reshapes our understanding of the early republic. The democracy that was established in the late 18th century was, by modern standards, profoundly exclusive and hierarchical. The franchise, the fundamental right to vote, was largely restricted to a small subset of the population. In most states, the right to cast a ballot was tied to property ownership, a requirement that effectively disenfranchised the vast majority of men who did not own land. It was a government designed by and for the propertied elite, a far cry from the universal suffrage we consider a cornerstone of democracy today. Furthermore, entire segments of the population were explicitly excluded from the political process altogether, not just by circumstance, but by law and custom. Women, enslaved African Americans, even free black men, many Native Americans, poor white men who did not meet property qualifications. The early states had a patchwork of different rules, but the general pattern was one of exclusion, not inclusion. This reality does not negate the radical nature of the ideas being put forth, but it does place them in their proper historical context. Persistent image, founders as a single unified mind. We see them in paintings and in textbooks, as if they moved in lockstep to create a perfect government. Comforting idea, a divine, flawless origin. Effortless consensus, no serious conflict or doubt. Fact: the founders argued a lot. They were brilliant, passionate, and deeply divided. Fierce debates, prolonged debates, sometimes bitter debates. Disagreements were fundamental, not minor quibbles. Conflicts over the nature of power, liberty, governance, federalists versus anti-federalists, division of power, central government versus states, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, arguments for states' rights, power close to the people. Debates played out publicly, public forums, pamphlets. Constitutional Convention of 1787. Debates at the convention were long and messy. For months, delegates argued, compromised, maneuvered. Alliances shifted. Tempers flared. The enterprise nearly collapsed. The Constitution was a complex, uneasy compromise. Not any one person's perfect vision. The most famous depiction of this moment, John Trumbull's painting Declaration of Independence, which hangs in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda and has profoundly shaped our collective memory. It shows a room full of distinguished men, a committee presenting a draft, an air of solemn, unified purpose. This powerful image leads many to believe that on July 4, 1776, all the delegates gathered together in Philadelphia, queued up, and affixed their signatures in a single, grand, and meticulously orchestrated ceremony. Fact: the declaration took time. The formal signing happened later. The actual process was far more drawn out and less cinematic than the famous painting suggests. the Second Continental Congress officially voted for independence on July 2, 1776. This was the day that John Adams believed would be celebrated by future generations. The text of the Declaration of Independence was then debated and formally adopted 2 days later, on July 4th. However, this was the adoption of the text, not the day it was signed by everyone. The official, engrossed parchment copy of the Declaration was not prepared and ready for signatures until several weeks later. The main signing event took place on August 2, 1776, when most of the 56 delegates who were present in Philadelphia at the time added their names. Even then, the process was not complete. Several delegates were absent and had to sign later. Some who had voted for independence never had the chance to sign the final document, while a few others added their names as late as November. The collection of signatures was a staggered process that unfolded over a period of several months. The famous Trumbull painting is a magnificent piece of historical art, but it was intended to capture the spirit and significance of the moment rather than to serve as a literal documentary photograph of a single event. The artist himself took liberties, including men who did not sign and excluding some who did, in order to create a more compelling and symbolic composition. The actual process, with its multiple dates and logistical hurdles, reminds us that history is often less tidy than our artistic representations of it. Myth 2. The Declaration ended all ties and problems right away. In the popular narrative, the Declaration of Independence often feels like the final chapter of one story and the immediate beginning of another. It's perceived as a magic wand that, once waved, instantly dissolved the authority of the British Crown, united the 13 colonies into a single, harmonious nation, and solved the major political and social challenges of the day. This perspective views the Declaration as a definitive conclusion, a moment when the difficult work was finished and the colonists could begin the simple task of living in their new, free country without further strife or significant obstacles. Fact: the Declaration was a bold statement. It did not solve many problems. It was, first and foremost, a proclamation of intent, a powerful piece of political propaganda designed to justify a rebellion and attract foreign allies, most notably France. It did not, in itself, win the war or create a government. When the delegates pledged their lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor, they were not making a symbolic gesture. They were committing treason against the most powerful empire on earth and kicking off years of brutal warfare, political chaos, and profound uncertainty. The Revolutionary War would continue to rage for another 7 long and bloody years after the Declaration was adopted. The initial euphoria of 2026 gave way to the harsh realities of military defeats, supply shortages, and the brutal winter at Valley Forge. Beyond the battlefield, the new states were anything but united. They squabbled amongst themselves over borders, trade, and their respective contributions to the war effort. The first attempt at a national government, the Articles of Confederation, proved to be deeply flawed and hopelessly weak, leading to a decade of political instability and economic turmoil that nearly caused the entire revolutionary project to collapse into failure. Furthermore, the Declaration's lofty ideals of liberty and equality did nothing to resolve the deepest social contradiction of the era, the institution of slavery. While it declared that all men were created equal, the document was signed by many men who owned other human beings. The institution of slavery not only continued but expanded in the decades that followed, a deep and festering wound that would eventually tear the nation apart in a catastrophic civil war. Myth 1. Early America was the start of perfect freedom for all. It is the idea that the ringing of the Liberty Bell in 1776 signaled the dawn of a new age of freedom and opportunity that was immediately available to everyone within the new nation's borders. This narrative paints early America as a finished utopia of liberty, a place where the shackles of old-world oppression were thrown off and every individual was suddenly and completely free to pursue their own destiny. It is a story of a promise made and a promise instantly fulfilled for every single person.